pleased to have Suzanne Droubie, who's our Pima County Assessor, and she'll be running for re-election as it was established in 2028. And we'll discuss the work being done in her office and her accomplishments in office thus far. So again, warm welcome. Glad you're here. Can't wait to hear you.
Hello. Well, first of all, I want to say thank you for having me. I know we're coming off of some really exciting things here in Pima County, some exciting elections that I've been able to be lucky enough to be involved in. And some exciting things happening on a federal level. Some disappointing things. Hopefully they'll be resolved really quick. I want to take a second to congratulate everybody at the city and at Alita, of course. Very, very proud of the people that we have in office here in Pima County and the people that I'm privileged to work with. I also want to say thank you to everybody right now that's on this call and that's out there for electing me my second term. I ran unopposed, so I will say it was a lot easier. I tried to look at it very positively and not sit back on my heels and do nothing and take it for granted. The vote of confidence that everybody has in me and that really came through with running unopposed did not go unnoticed by me, and I do not take it for granted. I work very hard here in the assessor's office for everybody, even though it's one of those offices where people don't necessarily know what we do here. I think that over the last 5 years, I have put the effort in so more people know what we do here in the assessor's office. And for those of you that still don't, I'm going to go ahead and give a little bit of information on that. The assessor's office is a row office at Pima County, which means I do a job. I come to work here 40 hours a week. I don't set policy per se, but I do influence policy and I help legislators do policy that affects my office. But this is a 40-hour-a-week job because what we do here in this office affects each and every one of us on a daily basis. We are responsible in my office for going out, identifying properties, listing properties onto the roll, and then valuing those properties. And then they take those values and they use that value in the calculation to determine how much you're going to pay in property taxes. And then those property taxes that the county collects goes to pay for all of the services across Pima County. So the obvious ones like your roads and your fire departments, your police departments, your schools, all of the money that we collect for property taxes goes to fund all of that. Also, all of the services that the county provides, those are all funded through the revenue that is collected from the property owners in Pima County, and the values that we produce here on each one of those properties is very important in that calculation in a way that that value determines the portion of taxes that need to be collected overall that you are individually responsible for. And so the value needs to be fair and accurate to ensure that you're not paying any more or any less than you should be paying in property taxes. And that kind of covers a lot of the statutory and the main function here in the assessor's office. Now, that being said, we do other things in the assessor's office. We do business personal property, which is a small part, not any less important, but a smaller part of that revenue pie is collected based on business personal property that larger businesses in Pima County own. And so we also do that function in my office. I'm also responsible for, which to me is the most important part of my job, in my opinion. Um, County leaders might disagree. They do very much appreciate the revenue aspect of it, of course, but I appreciate the exemption part of it. It's one of the lesser known things that we do that I'm really, really trying to push out into the public. And it's been my main focus over the last 5 years and will continue to be moving forward. I work very heavily and closely with the legislator to make sure that our exemptions stay up to date and that we are recognizing areas where we can do more when it comes to exemptions. We have exemptions for widows and widowers. We have exemptions for seniors. We have exemptions for disabled people that are just disabled. We have a brand new exemption for vets that are 100% disabled due to their service. And so we have a lot of programs out there for people that help them in when it comes to their property taxes, because a lot of people, they struggle, they're on fixed incomes. We know this, and any little thing we can do to help goes a long way. And that is one of the things at the assessor's office that we can do. I have an entire team that does nothing but process exemption paperwork. We go out to the libraries, and there's a calendar on my website that shows what library we're going to be in. And there's a team at those libraries that have all of the information on exemption. They have all of the paperwork that you need. They have the qualifications. They will walk anybody through the process of getting onto those exemptions. It's just a way that I feel Arizona has been very good at trying to help the community. And it's a very it hasn't been broadcasted out there in the past. And so again, because I feel it is that important, it is one of the things that I do. And in an effort to get that information out there, I know that we've seen these before, but I have brochures that we create in our office. One of the things that we did so that it's an actual physical thing that you can take with you that has information and contact phone numbers, things you can grab and pass out to people that you believe may qualify for them, even if you yourself do not. I think that we're a team, and service is, to me, what government should be all about, and creating the relationships with the community that we need to get information like this out there. I can't do it on my own, obviously. So that's why just being in front of you and you guys so graciously entertaining me for a while by listening to me. This information now is in your hands. And so by being in your hands, you can get it into other people's hands. And I kind of always say, even if you just tell 2 people and they tell 2 people, eventually everybody in Pima County will know about these services that we have available out there. And so we can help as many people as we possibly can. Especially right now, things are hard and they have the outward appearance of getting harder, sadly. And at least for the next year or so, until we get out there and make the change we all need to make. For the next year, though, we need to really make sure we're taking care of our neighbors and we're out there helping each other get through this. And this is one small way you can do that. So that's one thing we do in the office. The other thing that I've put in place since I've been here is rapid response, which some of you may have heard me talk about before. It's something I implemented in my first term. The program is growing, and that is a program where if you suffer damage from, say, a tornado, which we don't have much in Arizona, but I've noticing the last couple of years, There's been a couple. It's why I moved here, because they didn't exist. But sadly, I think we had two, one possible and one actual touchdown last year. So, but we've always had things like microbursts. We've always had fires. Arizona is a hot spot. Excuse the pun, but it definitely is. And sadly, things happen. Cabins burned, Mount Lemon. We haven't had a major fire in Mount Lemon for a while, but it's always a possibility. I want to make sure that the community knows that I'm here and I have your back. We are very proactive. We work with all the fire departments. We work with the flood district. We work with all of the agencies out there. If there is a fire, I get notified. If there's a major flood, I get notified. And then I send a team out to the property. I don't wait for the taxpayer to call me. The last thing anybody should be doing, if their cabin burns down or their house burns down or a tree falls into it or something happens, the last thing anybody needs to be thinking about is calling my office to get their value adjusted or something of that nature. So we come out to you. We're very proud of that program. We've helped hundreds of people since its inception, and we're helping more and more every day. So it's one of the ways we can be proactive here in the assessor's office. And it's just another way that I continue to make sure that I'm putting the service in public service every single day. We have an annual report that we do every single year. This is new also with my administration. And this is on our website. I have hard copies at the office. If you want a hard copy, please call me. I'll get one out to you. It goes through everything we do in the assessor's office. It has all of the numbers and stats. So if anybody's like really a real estate geek, they'll love this. And even if you're not, just kind of being aware of what's happening in Pima County, this is a good place to start. It's got a lot of real estate information, and it's got information on all of the services that we provide. We put one out every single year to kind of just go over the numbers. And so you kind of can have your finger on the pulse of what's happening in the community right alongside of the assessor's office. The market lately, I will say there's approximately 430,000 properties in Arizona. We put a value on those every single year. So let's talk a little bit about appeals and how that process works, because it's really important. You have all, if you own property, received a little letter from me every year right around February before March 1st, giving you the value of your property. Open it up and look at it, please. I can't stress that enough. Not everybody does that. Some people see mail from the government and they just toss it if it's not a bill. It's not a bill, but that value will determine your bill the following year. The one that comes from our treasurer, Mr. Johnson. The value that I send to you is what starts that process. So when you open that up and look at it, you need to ask yourself, could I sell my property for this? If you could sell your property for that and all of the characteristics are all accurate, then you can take it and you can do what you want with it. I advise you to put it in a folder and file it. But if you want to throw it away at that point, if you don't see an error on it, then you go ahead and do so. If you do see a problem with it, step one is to call the office. We'll go over the notice with you, explain where that value came from. Many times if there's a major error on that, or if it is a situation where you think that value is too high, it's because we've got a characteristic wrong, or it's because we don't know something about your property that you know, that we need to know so that we can value it correctly. We only have one objective here at the assessor's office, and that's to make sure that you are valued fairly and accurately. We don't try to up those values as high as we can to bring in, you know, as much revenue as we can. That is not my objective. That's not my job. My job is to put a value on it. So your portion of property taxes is fair and equitable in comparison to your neighbors based on the sales. That's kind of the very easy explanation. If there's a problem, call the office. If we need to appeal, we will walk you through that appeal process. We'll help you fill out the paperwork. You cannot get down to the office. I will send somebody to your house with the paperwork to help you fill out the paperwork. It's all about service for me. It's all about customer service. If there's an error, we're going to fix it. We're going to make sure your value is accurate and correct. I can correct a current year and go back 3 years. We've done that with a lot of classification issues that have arisen from the past administration. We've been doing a lot of that here in the office. We just want to get it correct. And all of my colleagues here in this office and at the treasurer's office and at the administration, we all feel the same way. Everybody just needs to pay their fair share, no more and no less. That's the objective. That being said, I will let you know that out of 430,000 plus notices that we sent out in Pima County last year, we only had 1,000 appeals, a little over 1,000. The exact number, 1,109 appeals, which means we do a pretty good job here at the assessor's office valuing properties. I'm going to admit, in case my predecessor happens to see this, he had a lot more appeals. However, he had some issues as far as the market goes that I didn't have to deal with over the last 5 years. Thankfully, it does help me shine, but I'm not going to take credit where it's not due. In an up market, it makes my job very, very easy, and it keeps those appeal numbers down. But I want everybody to be assured that should that change and the market should start to go down, that is when we all have to be much more vigilant about looking at that value, making sure that value is below what you could sell it for, because I want to make sure that I'm moving down just as fast as the market is in the event that that happens. Don't be afraid to file that appeal, please. We are here to help you file an appeal, because I want you to appeal, because the more people that appeal, the more accurate we are here in the office, and that is the goal. So the newest thing that's happened in the assessor's office is the newest exemption that we have, and that is for veterans. So if anybody out there knows a veteran, and we all do, if Arizona has a new exemption, it will go into effect in 2026. Any vet that is 100% disabled in the line of service or during their service, they qualify for an exemption now in Arizona that will relieve them of their property taxes on their primary residence if they meet the income qualifications. It also is an exemption that in the event of the passing of the veteran will extend to their spouse as long as they are in that primary residence. This is a big, big exemption in the way that it's different than any other exemption that Arizona has put out there. This one basically removes the property taxes completely. All of the other exemptions and relief programs either freeze a value or will relieve a portion of the taxes. This one that they've put forward for vets will relieve the vets of their property taxes, period. So if you know a vet that is 100% service-related disabled, I want to talk to them. I want them to call my office. We want to fill out the paperwork, and we want to get them signed up for this program. It's all across Arizona. So I don't care if you know a vet here, if you know a vet in in Pinal, Maricopa, Yuma, any place in Arizona. You need to call me. I can get you the brochure. I can get you all the information, and we can do what we can to help our veterans out there that are 100% disabled for being there for us when we needed them there for us. So it is it's brand new, like I said. And if you need more information on that, please call the office and I'll get that to you. The other thing that we're working on here in the office is it's an upsetting subject for me because it does tend to strike our most vulnerable population, and that's deed fraud. Deed fraud is a big deal. And so this is another place where I want everybody on the call to really pay attention. Deed fraud is happening, and with the advancing technology and AI, it is the dark side of AI and the dark side of technology. Deed fraud is a lot easier to get away with across the United States. We're doing everything we can here to make it as difficult as possible. Now, that being said, we can't stop it. And I think everybody understands that. The second we put up a wall, they're going to find a way around it. They're going to come up with a new, fancier way to do it. So we're always playing catch up. But I want you to know that we are in the assessor's office, even though we're at the end of the line when it comes to deed fraud. I still take it very, very seriously. And we are doing everything we can to make it as difficult as possible for somebody to take your home from you without you knowing it. It's happening in some very creative ways. One of the ways I'm working on it here is address changes. By statute, the notice goes to the property owner, which means that that property owner doesn't always have it go to their property. They can come and do an address change at my office and have that notice go wherever they want. One of the things the fraudsters, we'll just call them fraudsters, are doing is they were fraudulently changing the address so that the notice would go to them, which would legitimize them. And then if something happened to your property, you wouldn't know about it because you were no longer getting the mail and the notices related to your property sent to your house. So we've now put it in a program in place where if you're going to do an address change, and sadly, it does make it a little difficult even for people that are legitimately doing it, but you have to have a valid ID. It has to be notarized. We're looking at those IDs. We're not taking copies of them, but we have a checklist here. Much like when you get a job and they check your citizenship, you bring in all of those documents and they do the checklist and give you your documents back. We're doing something that resembles that in the assessor's office for address changes to make sure that the owner, is actually the person doing that. A lot of times, and sadly, fraud can happen within families. So the other thing we're doing is if you're going to do an address change, we need every owner of that property needs to be involved and needs to sign that slip and show their ID. The second an address gets changed and notifications are going someplace else, we send a postcard out to the original address so that if you didn't make that change, you're going to get a pink postcard from me that says address was changed for notifications on this property. If you did not do this, call the office. So those are some of the things that we're doing here in the assessor's office to ensure that this isn't happening. But I also want to tell you, I'm going to do a little shout out here to the recorder, who is working really hard down there, and she's getting the news out herself, but I'm going to help. The recorder's office has a program. It's an opt-in program. If you go onto the website or call that office, they will help you sign up for it there. You go online, you put your information in, and then if anything happens to your property, you will be notified by the recorder's office. These are all programs that are put in place to protect you, help us. I will be also putting a program in place here at the assessor's office where if a title comes across my desk, I will have it set up automatically where another one of those postcards will go out that will say, hey, just so you know, a change has been made to this title. If you've recently sold your property, please disregard. If you've recently purchased the property, so that way we're doing everything we can to just make sure everybody knows something is happening with your property. That is right now we're finding the most effective way to try and stop that. I also have a whole team out there right now dedicated to deed fraud, and what they're doing is they're also analyzing anything that comes across by way of changing in trusts, because we have people coming in here and changing beneficiaries on trusts. And so a moving van isn't going to show up outside your house, but if you have a trust set up and you are expecting your largest and biggest asset to be handed down to your loved ones, I want to make sure that happens. If that's what you want, I'm going to do what I can to make sure that your wishes are fulfilled. We have people coming in here fraudulently changing beneficiaries on trust so that when you pass away, they now get your property. And we're working on it in legislature. I'm working very closely with Maricopa and with all the legislators down there to try to get the law changed, because the statute of limitations on this type of stuff is not working in our favor. Because if it goes unnoticed for 5 years, there's nothing we can do. There's nothing you can do. So we're working on changing that. We're working on doing everything we can here. But I'm not trying to scare anybody, but we need to stay on top of this. It is typically our most vulnerable adults. It's the people that have paid off their mortgages that are getting hit the hardest because they don't have a bank involved. That is that extra layer of protection, and things of that nature. So know that we're working on it here. That's kind of my big project right now. And you're seeing things across your TV screen right now because there's a lot of capitalists out there that, yes, they will help you, but they're going to charge you. Please let us help you for free. Sign up at the recorder's office. Call me. We'll flag your property here. We'll do whatever we possibly can to make sure that you are not a victim of deed fraud. I just, on a personal note, my neighbor, whom I dearly love and have a very good relationship with him and his wife. They're elderly. It wasn't deed fraud, but they were defrauded out of $35,000. It happens, and it breaks your heart when it happens, because it's one of those things where once it happens, it's typically too late. Okay, so I'm also, outside of the assessors, trying to put together a task force to just really help crack down on fraud, not only deed fraud, which is my wheelhouse, but also fraud in general, on just what's happening out there in the county with these scammers with their telephone calls and things like that. So just know, and please take care of your neighbors out there. Be talking about deed fraud. The other part of this is that when it does happen, people don't like to talk about it because it's embarrassing, right? That you fell for something like that. It's not embarrassing. These people are professionals. They know what they're doing. The more we talk about it, the more we protect each other, the less successful they will be. And hopefully they'll crawl right back into that hole that they came out of to begin with. That's our goal. So
Well, that's customer service.
yeah, that's what I do. That's my background. That and being an appraiser. And I think throughout my life, all those little odd jobs you think you have when you're in your early 20s and things like that, you're like, oh, those aren't going to come into play. Man, I've used every single career and job I've ever had in my life. I'm bringing it all to the table here in the assessor's office and doing everything I can to make sure that I am giving you the best possible service that we can here in the assessor's office.
Great. Well,
So,
we're going to have some questions for you.
okay.
I do have a question to lead off, and that is, you mentioned senior citizen exemption. What are the parameters of that?
Well, let's see. We have the widowers exemption. There are financial criteria that you have to meet. And now I don't have them in front of me and they're not in my brochure. So I don't want to start giving exact numbers. And I apologize for not having them at my fingertips. But they do go off of your, one thing I changed, they used to go off your gross income. Now they go off your net income. So most people will qualify. So the widowers, and what this one does is it's an exemption, it's a partial exemption. We have the senior valuation protection. The main criteria here is that you're 65 or older. And on this one, again, there's typically some financial qualifications that you have to meet. And the senior valuation protection is a freeze. It freezes your limited value for 3 years, and you do need to apply every 3 years. That has become burdensome for some people. And so we're right now working with with our legislators down on Capitol Hill, to get that particular 3-year renewal requirement removed. So know that we're working on that, but as it stands right now, we do need to renew every 3 years. My office is extremely proactive. You'll get about 17 phone calls from us if you're starting to pass that deadline, because I don't want anybody to fall off that shouldn't. But there's that one. And then we also have, like I said, the disabled veterans one. And we also have just disabled persons. So those are the ones that we have right now. And again, I will afterwards get all of the numbers, and I will come to the next meeting and have flyers with all of those requirements on them, along with some applications and all of these brochures. So
Right.
at our next
Yeah,
meeting.
and Suzanne, thanks so much for covering all that your office is doing, helping us if there's fraudulent circumstances. I mean, there's commercials now, companies that offer the service. There's news stories. I've watched some television shows that have they feature a senior being fraudulently dealt with and dealt out of their real estate. So thank you for bringing, your office to fight. That's really great. Mike, do you have anything going in the chat?
I do not see any other questions in the chat, but I do have a couple of my own, if you wouldn't mind.
Sure.
Okay, yes. Can I just really sorry, Michael, just right before you
Not
say
at all.
that, one of my my wonderful friends here at the assessor's office, the income limit, so we got the number, it's 38,843. So that's the income limit on the exemptions. And like I said, that is net. So don't let that number scare you. If you're like, oh, I make more than that, please come in and let us, because there's certain things that are not counted, like Social Security income. If you're going for the veterans income from your disability, that's not counted. So there's a lot of income that you may receive that you think disqualifies you that we can remove and still qualify you. So please don't let that number, if that seems really low to you, don't let it scare you, because we can remove a lot of that right off the top and get you qualified for these programs anyways.
Yeah. And I can attest that the process is really easy. I did it for my mom in the 27 years between her retirement and passage. So yeah, it's easy to do.
Okay. Yeah.
My question is, what does the revenue pie look like? You keep talking about, the pie. How is it divided between residential and commercial property and commercial personal property and any other revenues that you get?
Yeah. Basically what they do is we classify every property, kind of just like how you stated. We've got residential property, we have commercial property, and then we have land. Those are the 3 main categories. And we take the value, so let's just say on a $300,000 residential property, and we apply a 10% ratio. And so we calculate that taxes off of $3,000. If you have a $300,000 commercial property, right now the ratio is 15%. So we're going to apply that 15%. And don't make me do math without a calculator, Michael, but 15% of 300. So you're going to do, that's what we're going to use to make that calculation off of. And land,
4,500, I think. Yeah.
yeah, there you go. And land is the same. It's also 15%. So residential is a lower ratio. So
Mhm.
they have a lower portion of that pie on the same, on a property valued the same as far as commercial and land goes. That being said, that I want to put another thing out there. Check your classification on your property. You've got to be a class 3. If you live in that house for 6 months and 1 day out of the year, you are a class 3 residential property. So when you look at your notice, it'll say classification, make sure there's a 3. I will beg Michael and to put me back on here again when notices go out so that we can again get this out there, class 3. Because what that does is that qualifies you for the state aid to education. So it will reduce your taxes even further. If you rent your property, it will be a class 4. We've had over the years a lot of people that were misclassified. They were classified as a 4 when they should have been a 3, and so they weren't receiving that credit. I can only change current year and 3 years prior. So it's really important that I get a hold of people as fast as I can. That is a big, big deal.
Yeah. Well, I'll just note here that this is something the Trump administration has been using to prosecute political enemies, is misclassifying your property between rental and personal.
Yeah.
Rental plays a higher rate. Looks like we got a couple questions in the chat. A couple of hands raised.
Yeah, Susie, your hand's up. Good to see you.
Oh, it's great to be here. And thank you, Susan. I am so proud of Tucson for electing you into the assessor's office. That was really great. You and Brian Johnson working together. Now, apartments are commercial commercial properties.
Apartments are considered residential, but they're class 4. So they have that same 10% applied to them, but they don't receive that state aid to education credit because it's a class 4. So that is where they differ. They are commercial. I consider them commercial, but because people live in them and they are people's homes, we classify them as residential. And so yeah, that's how they're done. And you know,
so the property owners don't pay the taxes?
They don't and they do. That is the misconception, because that's what everybody, I do get that call every once in a while from a few very concerned constituents saying, you know, you really need to up those values on the apartments. And I am very careful to make sure that they're always valued correctly and at market. And one thing we do need to be aware of is it's like every other, if I up their value or we up their value and the property taxes that the owner of the building has to pay goes up.
Rent goes up.
The rent goes up because they aren't taking that out of their profits. They're passing that straight through to the renters. So it's a very delicate balance that I play here, because I need to make sure that they're valued fairly and accurately. And I don't try to, well, I just don't, it's not even try to, I don't bring emotion into it that way, because inadvertently I could be hurting those renters. And those rents are going up high and fast, faster than we've ever imagined or ever seen before. So we do make sure they're right there where they need to be with market, but we're always cognizant of the fact that those increases are going to be passed right through to the renters. So that's part of the problem. Yeah.
Thanks, Susie.
Yeah.
Okay, we have Bob Delaney. Bob.
Hi, Suzanne. I wanted to ask you if the exemption program is determined at the county level or if it's a statewide program. Do we have, how is that determined?
They're statewide programs.
Okay.
So everybody in the state of Arizona can qualify for them. I am part of the Arizona Association of Assessing Officers, which is basically all the assessors in the state of Arizona. We meet once a month, and we are very, very heavily involved with all of our legislators to try to help make sure that these policies that affect our particular area are as clear, accurate, and benefit as many taxpayers as we possibly can. We've really been active when it comes to these exemptions over the last couple of years, and we plan to continue to be. There's things going on right now in legislation. We're perfecting them because we're going to find sponsors for them and put them through. And they are all doing positive things for residential homeowners mainly. I am very big about protecting my commercial owners too. But right now, a lot of the focus is making sure that we're really taking care of the residential owners, because at the end of the day, every piece of that pie needs to get paid, right? And so anybody that we lower, it's just getting distributed amongst everybody else. So commercial sector over the last couple of years has received some great breaks. Their ratio has dropped from 18% down to 15%. And the business personal property exemption is now up to 500,000. And so the commercial sector is getting breaks they've got a great lobbying group, ATRA, bless their hearts. But the thing is all of those bills still need to get paid, and all of that burden's being passed on to those residential homeowners. And so I'm out there right now, not fighting against the business community, but fighting for the residential homeowners, because I need to make sure that this all stays fair. And because a lot of people don't realize that, and residential owners don't have those great big lobbying groups out there working for them. They've got me and all of the other assessors across Arizona, and we are aware, and we are fighting out there for you guys every day.
Thank you.
Now, my family being culturally from Missouri, bless your heart means a whole different thing down there.
Sorry, I meant it in a good way.
Yeah, right. So I have a couple follow-ups. First of all, how is that pie divided between the revenue? Can you characterize the amount of revenue you get from residential versus commercial versus land? How's that breakdown between the total revenue you collect? What portion comes from what properties?
Yeah, that is a very complex question, and it is one we can answer, but it's one that I definitely need to query and pull the numbers on.
Isn't it in your annual report there? Is it in your annual report?
The annual report has the numbers as far as how many properties that breaks out to, commercial versus residential.
But
so
not the
we
revenue.
get an idea there. I can actually get exact numbers, which would definitely be a great follow-up to what we're doing here. But yes, that kind of information you can find in the annual report, and I can get the exact dollar amounts from my tax assembly group. Tax assembly is here, and they kind of work with me at the assessor's office and with Brian Johnson at the treasurer's office. They work with both of us very carefully, but they have all of those numbers. They're the ones that put together your tax bill that gives you how much of your particular bill is going to each individual area. But we can get that on a whole, as far as this is what residential's portion is, commercial and land.
That'd be lovely.
Yeah, and actually,
in fact, if you wanted to send that to me, I'll publish it on Blog for Arizona.
Yes, and I will actually that's something I will add to our next report.
Great. And do you know how much the carve-outs and exemptions actually cost us here in Pima County per year?
I don't. You are a numbers person, aren't you? I will get all of those. I want you to make me a list. But yes, and and that I know that my tax assembly group isn't headed by an elected official. It is an elected official's office, and it's a function of my office and the treasurer's office.
Yeah.
I think a really great guest would be Eric Howard, who runs tax assembly here, because we could have a whole Monday of all of these numbers.
No, that'd be great.
But let's get him a list first of what we want so that he has all of those numbers, because I personally would love to have all of those numbers at my fingertips. I deal
Okay.
more with value than I do with the tax revenue side. That's more Brian's wheelhouse, and me and him are very respectful of each other, and we try not to step on each other's toes too much. But it is very, yeah, I would love to have that.
No worries. Yeah, I'd love to do a detailed follow-up on the numbers here in
Yeah.
Pima County. So I'll stop asking about numbers.
No,
And instead, I will ask, what changes haven't you been able to make due to statute? And secondly, and I guess definitely related, if Dems were to take over the legislature, what changes would you like to see in statute that would affect the operation of your office?
yeah. What have I not been able? I'll tell you, I'm pretty tenacious. So there's not a lot I haven't been able to get accomplished. More so if there is something out there that I haven't thought of myself, bring it to my attention, because I will get it out there, and I will get it done. I have, if me and my hands have been tied a little bit, as far as being a Democrat with getting things sponsored that are going to get through, because we right now in Arizona, we are pretty much run by the Republicans.
Yeah.
But that is where my other assessors come in, which is why we've been very successful. I work very closely with Maricopa County with Eddie Cook.
So you backdoor through a Republican.
Yeah, I do, but Eddie is very moderate.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to say anything else that could possibly hurt him, because he does a lot for Arizona, and a lot for us. And he's a real good advocate now. Now, if the tables turned and it all of a sudden became, now the Democrats were in control, which is where we want to be here in
Just
a couple of years. We're going to get there.
We're having a wave election, looks like in 26, could happen.
Yes, and I'm really excited for that, and I'm preparing for it right now, because then, as being the assessor in Pima County, that's where I'm gonna now, I would take the lead with Eddie more, the wind and the sails, backing me up, because then I'm gonna be the voice working with the legislator and the sponsors and getting things through, because I will then at that point become more powerful.
Yeah.
So that is where that organization, the assessing officers, become so vital to everything we want to get done, is the ability that we all have in that particular group to really work together and really kind of put the politics aside and put the communities that we work in and the people that live in those communities, our constituents, first. And we all work together to do what's best for them. And the assessor's office stays out of some of this other stuff, which makes us very, very effective.
Yeah. Can you give us an idea of some of the bills that have not passed muster with Republicans that might with the Democrats?
Yeah, we've been working, like I said, taking that 3-year renewal thing off the table. We've kind of been shot down on that. And so we're hoping to get that through this time. The veterans exemption, I absolutely do love it. But I wish there was more exemptions out there for other people that, to be honest with you, anything that hits financially anywhere is not popular, and it won't get through a Republican at all. Mesnard is very good about throwing up roadblocks. And so some of that type of stuff hasn't gone through, but like I said, we're still working on it as a team. And in that case, just, I want everybody aware that they're shooting down all the assessors on that. All of the assessors are behind this stuff that would benefit the taxpayers. Some of the stuff that has to do with affordable housing, I do try to get involved in that because it's in my wheelhouse. Some of that type of stuff isn't getting through, and some stuff is getting through that I absolutely hate that wouldn't get through, like being able to, get your property taxes reduced because you think your property value is being hurt by the population that,
Homeless.
yeah, the homeless population.
Yeah.
And which is
Yeah, that was a
absolutely,
proposition last year, right?
yeah, and it made it through.
Yeah.
No way to implement it. And
Not really.
and I'm not helping them implement it. And
Yeah, good luck with for the judges who have to try and determine whether or not there's an impact on your property value.
yeah, and
One of the things that I had in
nobody-
mind, that I was kind of softball to you, but you didn't pick up the softball, was that there is currently an exemption for personal business property or
Oh.
business equipment for data centers, and that's become quite an issue here that people have become aware of. Is that something you'd like to see repealed, as the exemption for data centers equipment?
Data centers don't seem to be real popular here in Pima County. That's kind of
No, but they may be coming willy-nilly.
but they're going to come, I think, regardless. The word on the street is that we're going to have to deal with them regardless.
Yeah. And
Um,
they're packed with hundreds of millions of dollars of equipment that we could be taxing and benefiting from.
yes.
And so we're not seeing any benefit beyond just the building tax, which basically they're just big shells.
Yeah. And again, that is ATRA. And I will again say, bless their heart. And you can take that any way you want.
I know which way
yes.
I'm taking it.
Yeah, it is. And that is one of the things that would be wonderful to talk about when we do numbers, is how that policy and them constantly upping that exemption for business personal property is hurting.
Yeah.
It's hurting every county in the state of Arizona. And it's really hurting the rural counties, the smaller counties, because a lot of their revenue,
Indeed.
not as much here in Pima County and not as much in Maricopa. We're feeling it, but not to the extent they are in those rural communities. And let's face it, if it's affecting them, it is affecting us, right? I look at Arizona as a whole. But yes, that exemption goes up and up every year. We fight it every single year. It falls on deaf ears. So yes. And now, yes, that is one that, yes, I should have picked up that's what you were trying to get across to me. And I'm sorry for that. Business personal property. Not only did they up the exemption amount, and the data center, special exemptions for them, all of that hurts Pima County, and know that we are fighting against that. And I know you've heard ATRA come out of my mouth a lot.
Mhm.
ATRA is a very, very powerful lobbying group.
Bless their hearts.
Yep, bless their hearts. And they're great for the business community, not necessarily great for the residential community. What I would love to see is not just the assessor's office, because we are out there, like I said, fighting every day. I would love to see a lobbying group just for the residential homeowners that was as strong as ATRA, that could fight against some of this stuff to protect the residential homeowners.
I'll do it if you got a couple $1 million.
And you know what? ATRA gets their money from someplace. I think with 450,000, we've got 1 million residents in this state. If they really understood the impact that some of these special things that are happening for our business community. And again, I love our business community. We all work together as a team. We need business. We definitely do. So don't take anything I'm saying wrong. We need business. We need jobs. We need all of that. It works together as a team, but everybody needs to be treated fairly and equitably. And right now, things seem to be weighted in the favor of the business community, working against the residential community. And we need to make sure that we're protecting both sides, right? And so I think that is one thing, and I've bandied it about before, but we really need some sort of a lobbying group that really looks at and defends the residential property owners across Arizona. It's harder to do because the business community has a lot of money behind them,
Yep.
and their taxes are on a whole generally higher than what you're paying on your residential house, and for some, and we don't pay a lot of attention.
Yeah.
A lot of people pay their taxes with their escrows, and let's face it, they pay their mortgage payment and they don't think about it. By the time you paid off that house and now you're a senior, you're really thinking about it, because that is one of your biggest expenses, right? But we need everybody to think about it right away. We need to get people out there that with some clout and some lobbying skills that can go in there and fight for the residential homeowners.
We have the numbers, but not the organization and not the money.
Yeah,
Bob Delaney has a quick question. It's another definitional one. He wonders what the acronym stands for. ACCR. Is that something you're familiar with?
ACCR? Or
No,
ACC?
that was a guess. What you've been talking about this lobbying organization? What is it?
ATRA?
Oh,
Astra?
ATRA.
Okay,
ATRA.
thank you.
Arizona Tax Research Association.
Great, thanks.
Okay.
Well, on that note, time check is 1:01. You've been a great guest, and a lot of interest in some really issues affect us personally, and we really appreciate your time.
Thank you. And I always get a little nervous because I'm like, oh, how am I going to fill a half an hour? And then, yep, we always get to the
Always
end.
run out of time. Yeah.
Always run out of time.